Hey guys, Mr. Breen here, and in this first video of the economics course, I'm going to explain sort of the basics of economics, which include scarcity and the factors of production. Alright, so the reason why we have economics in the first place is that the basic condition of sort of humanity is that there's a limited amount of stuff. Okay, imagine this is our pile of everything that exists, and there are potentially unlimited wants and needs that we have. And so the wants and needs are greater always than the amount of stuff we have to satisfy those wants and needs. And this means we have to make choices. Guess what? If this were not true, we wouldn't have to make choices at all, but we do. When we have this limited amount of stuff, we have to decide what wants and needs are most important and how we're going to satisfy those wants and needs. Now, I want you to be very careful here. Scarcity does not mean that the world is going to run out of stuff. That is not what scarcity means. We're not going to run out of stuff. We have a law of conservation of mass. That's a thing. Okay. And it also does not mean that there's not enough. Necessarily. Sometimes it does mean that there's not enough, but enough is a very subjective word. Now, for economics purposes, the satisfaction of our wants and needs is thought of as consumption. We consume goods and we consume services and we consume other things that you might not think of as goods and services, but that are only available because of economic realities. And all consumption, of course, has to come from production. So one of our most basic breakdowns in economics is between consumption on the one hand and production on the other. But where does production come from? So we try to categorize the things that produce other things in various ways. And we could do this in a lot of different ways. We could say, is it animal, mineral, or vegetable, right? These are the old sort of 20 questions things. Or we could say, is it bigger than a bread box? I don't know what a bread box is. Is it bigger than a bread box or smaller than a bread box, right? We could do that as well. But those aren't very useful. A much more useful way of doing it is into natural resources. Apologize for the handwriting. Tools. And time and effort. Work. Time and effort. Okay, but we're going to give these names, and when we name them, land is going to end up being what we call natural resources. So that's natural resources we're going to call land. Don't let that fool you. This doesn't mean like land, like physical land necessarily. Land includes a lot of other things like steel and all that stuff. So natural resources we just call land. Labor is our time and effort. And our tools we're going to call capital. And we're going to divide that into two different things. We're going to say there's physical capital, which is just sort of man-made tools that help us do production. And there's human capital, which is like skills and knowledge. Education, that's human capital. That's what you're here for. I can't spell knowledge. Anyway. Okay, and then finally we also want to talk about entrepreneurship, which is the initiative to bring all this stuff together. Now, I want to take a moment to say something about money. Money is wonderful. Money helps you trade more efficiently with other people than you could do with barter, but money is not a factor of production. Inevitably, at some point during the course, someone is going to tell me that the way that a country gets rich, or the way to become richer over time, is to get more money. Well, there are some very poor countries out there, but a solution for their poverty is not to print a bunch of money. As you probably are aware, all that's going to do is cause inflation. Why is that? Because money is only as valuable as what you can trade it for. The only reason why a healthy person wants money is to trade it away, right? If you want money for its own sake, that's a psychological problem, and I might need to refer you to counseling. So unless you're going to use money to stitch together clothes or something like that, if you tell me that money is a factor of production or that the way for a country to get richer is to get more money, I will either have to draw something like this on your paper or possibly physically harm it. To summarize what you've seen here, the factors of production are what go into production, and nothing can be consumed without first being produced. Scarcity exists because these things are limited, the factors are limited, but needs and wants, that things that we might consume, consumption is potentially unlimited. And because of that, the unlimitedness of this and the limitedness of this, we need to make choices. Economics is merely the study of how people use these scarce resources to satisfy their wants and needs, and how they should. Now, before I end the video, I want to say something very important about economics. As Tom Sargent, Nobel Prize-winning economist, said in a graduation ceremony at UC Berkeley, economics is just organized common sense. Now, that doesn't mean economics is easy, but it does mean that economics or economic principles are inferable from things that you experience in everyday life. Now, this is why I want to stress to you that you cannot sit here and memorize what we're doing, and there's no need to. Okay, what I really want you to do is seek out an understanding of what it is that we're looking at. Everything that I've explained in this video is stuff that you already know, really. We're just putting names on it, and we're going to draw lots of other conclusions from it that aren't immediately obvious.